My name is Brian Dinkel. I am the front ensemble and audio caption head here at the Blue Devils. The rhythm section has been a big component of the front ensemble at the Blue Devils since I've been here. We started using drumset in 2008 for the first time, and since then it's been a really prominent component of the core. But these last 5 years, since 2019, it's definitely taken a growth of its own and kind of become an offshoot of itself. Adding the guitar to the front ensemble has kind of given the rhythm section a little bit more identity that they didn't have before. They weren't really even considered a section. It was just part of the front ensemble. And now they kind of exist as their own entity a lot of the time. So the guitar adds like this certain like rhythm section depth to every part of the show, and you have to approach every part of the show wondering where that performer fits in. So that automatically kind of pushes everything its own direction. We've had this drum set performer, Michael D, and our guitar player, Mario Notarangelo, since 2019. So this is kind of the culmination of their time, and going into this year, we knew we had that strength. We knew we had those kind of performers in our back pocket. So that's a big part of our show, and it's a big part of the identity and the sound of the group this year as well. There's a lot of people involved in creating their show. So a lot of the time it starts with Dave, the music coordinator at the Blue Devils, and his ideas of where the show's gonna go. Dave's brother, Sean Glide, is another resource that's really valuable to us. He's our drum set specialist, and he's also the drum set arranger. He and I kind of go back and forth in creating the parts. And you know, when we have a performer like Michael, the drum set player we have this year and we've had for the last several years, it almost feels like we have to customize things and make sure that the book is worthy of a performer like that. So in the past, like the drum set book would be a lot more of my ideas, and then Sean would kind of polish a few moments. But now the process is a lot more back and forth, where Sean might write an idea early on in the process, and then I'll take it, I'll change it a bunch of times, I'll integrate it with the mallet book and what the battery's doing. And then usually, as before we're kind of getting to the point of learning things for the performers, then Sean will usually do another pass and he'll detail it further, and he'll find more graceful ways and artful ways to approach some of the things that I write for him. So it's way more of a back and forth, and it's way more of a collaborative process than it used to be. And with Mario, our guitar player, he's such an amazing musician, and he's such a developed guitar player who has such a good concept of what we're looking for, that it used to be I would write out every note of the show for him, and I would be very prescriptive about his tones and everything. I still do that for a lot of the show, but now there's a few sections of the show where I will sketch out an idea, or I'll give him maybe like a lead sheet or a chord progression, and I'll explain some ideas, and then it'll be something where I'll let him have some freedom and some input on just what he's gonna say and how he's gonna say it, and then we'll go back and forth on it and kind of craft a little bit, and then he kind of takes it and makes it his own as we get closer to the end of the season. So it's a lot more collaborative with him too than it ever was. And it's weird, being in my position of a designer for a core, collaborating with a performer within the group. It's something that I've never seen here at the Blue Devils, where there's that much of a give and take between like the performer and the designer. But Mario's such an amazing player, and he's such an amazing guitarist, that with what he can do and like the idiom and how to create for that instrument, it'd be silly not to utilize his skill sets and all the things that he does to create music on his instrument. With marching bands, if you have a guitar player, he's probably not someone who's as developed as a musician in terms of just his creative instincts and his ideas. So I feel like you still have to kind of be interactive with the performer, because I feel like one of the toughest things about writing for a marching band guitar player is someone who's musically literate, meaning they can read the notes and they can interpret where it's going to lie on their guitar. I've taught beginning guitar players in marching ensembles where you have to integrate them and you have to tab things out. You have to find ways to make it accessible and kind of bridge the gap from where their guitar education ends and where your marching band or your percussion-focused education, because a lot of the time they're fitting into the front ensemble, goes. So it's one of those things where you have to really get to know your performer. You have to learn what their strengths and weaknesses are. And honestly, you have to pick and choose your moments, because a lot of time you're fitting a round peg into a square hole with trying to fit those elements into the marching band. With the drum set, it's also very similar. The drum set is a very difficult position with a younger player to fit into an indoor percussion ensemble or into a marching band. So, making sure you have a good understanding of that musician, that he's comfortable enough to play drum set in an ensemble and be the conduit of time from the battery to the front ensemble. Because if you don't have an experienced drum set player and you give them a lot of traditional drum set roles in a marching band show, you set them up for a lot of difficult times about trying to be the person who's interpreting time and trying to be the person who's kind of the gatekeeper of tempo from the front to the back. So, just like that, with a younger performer, you have to pick and choose your moments, or you may have to design with that instrument in mind, because if you're doing Copeland, maybe drum set, guitar, rhythm section isn't going to be the right direction you want to go. So you have to kind of fit your product around it, but you also have to be smart about knowing your performers and knowing what their limitations are and what their capabilities are as you design for them.